Well, in the world of asthma, a lot of people are there's asthma sufferers and also people who suffer from pollen in the air and general allergies. This is so I'm going to bring out a couple of this is actually older research and more recent research points out that vitamin D, natural vitamin D, can help greatly too. But going back to some other research, Nobel laureate Dr. Linus Pauling indicates that studies show that vitamin C may offer quite a bit of relief in asthma. They've had studies in, say, a country in Africa where they used a double-blind study. Um, 22 people were given 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily, and the other 20 were given a look-alike pill, a placebo, with no nutritional value. Takers of the vitamin C had fewer than one-fourth the asthma attacks as those on the placebo, and the attacks that they had were not as serious. They've also had another study in South Africa where they used children with bronchial asthma, and they were administered 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily, and none of them had any severe attacks of asthma. And they all showed improved lung function and an enhanced immune system. So that's an old standby. Actually, the vitamin C therapy has been known for quite a long time. Um, since the 70s. And of course, people have brought these theories out about vitamin C helping to alleviate, uh, reduce the amount of colds they were actually put down. But it's very, very cheap therapy. But just even remember back during the sailing days, the British ships, the sailors used to get scurvy from lack of vitamin C. How long did it take the medical establishment and the Navy to recognize that it was a lack of vitamin C that was causing the plague of scurvy on the ships? It took them 100 years, even though there was people that were pointing it out. It took that long for the established medicine and the Navy to recognize that. Then eventually, when they recognized it, everybody was, taking lemons, limes, and oranges. So, they became known as limeys. But it took them 100 years to recognize this. So sometimes, I don't know what the deal is. The establishment is very tough to recognize some things, and sometimes they got a nice entrenched racket going with pharmaceuticals. So oranges don't produce a lot of money versus somebody has an entrenched racket in pharmaceuticals. But then there's also things to avoid. Another thing to avoid is polyunsaturated fats present in, like, in other words, the garbage oils. The margarine, the canola oil, even, anything that is GMO type oil. You want to avoid that. Another thing you want to avoid with asthma is MSG, monosodium glutamate, which is a flavor enhancer. A lot of people, I know people know about it, but people eat in restaurants, they get a lot of monosodium glutamate. But one thing else that's a big thing that can work against asthma attacks and people who suffer from hay fever and allergies and things. It was a researcher at the Heidelberg University of Children's Clinic in Germany, Wahn, I think it's WAHNMD, made a study of 70 children with hay fever and allergy-related asthma who drank a solution of bee pollen and honey each day during a year. Basically, most of them showed a markedly less symptoms of hay fever and asthma attacks. So those are a couple very simple ones. Bee pollen, to take bee pollen. Bee pollen, actually, bee pollen and honey are very good things to take, but it's talking about bee pollen, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Very important. But that's another reason I talk about, taking Nature's Way Alive multivitamin whole food energizer, because it has a lot of vitamin D and a lot of vitamin C. And, the only thing it may not have is the bee pollen, but so get that separate. But bee pollen is very good to take anyway. And there are some more exotic, useful herbs out there, but these are very common things. I think the big problem is people just don't do it. It's such a simple thing to do, or they forget about it. It's like once you're in a habit of doing it, you're fine. The doctors say you don't need a vitamin. I don't know about that. It took, how long did it take the medical establishment to recognize that's what the problem is with scurvy on the ships, hundreds of years ago in the UK when the sailors were getting scurvy. A lot of people, there was people that recognized what the problem was from, but it took so long for the medical establishment to recognize it, and the Navy. So, I just point this out is that there are some studies that back it up. I mentioned some things, but you cannot really say that vitamin C is going to harm you, bee pollen is going to harm you, or avoiding MSG is going to harm you, or avoiding some of the worst oils out there, some of the polyunsaturated fats is going to harm you. So, just common sense. But if it does not work, nothing lost. Nothing lost. No money out really. Nothing lost. And there's other benefits to bee pollen and vitamin C. So if it doesn't cure your asthma all the way or something, or help you, because it doesn't, the studies indicate it doesn't help in every single case, but there are studies that indicate that it helps in quite a few cases. So it's worth trying. That's what I have to say, and the price is definitely right.